Just a quick reminder guys, these narrations are best enjoyed with headphones on. Hello my fellow Dream Chasers, Kenzie N7 Retro here, the newly appointed assistant editor of the Accessible Gaming Network. Today is my present to you for Christmas. I'm going to be reviewing one of the most critically acclaimed titles of this year, which just won 7 awards from 10 nominations recently at the 2020 Game Awards. Does this game's accessibility live up to the acclaim it has received? Let's find out. I am aware that some of our blog supporters haven't played this game yet, so I'm going to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. In this follow-up to the 2013 PS3 masterpiece, which won over 200 Game of the Year awards, you primarily control Ellie as you traverse across post-apocalyptic USA to find Abby, who is part of the Wolf Militia, or Washington Liberation Front. But along the way, you encounter runners, clickers, and the occasional bloater, along with another group of enemies called Seraphites, more commonly referred to as Scars. I can't go into too much more detail on the game's story, otherwise I would be going into spoiler territory. I am just going to get this out of the way right now. This is the most accessible game I've ever played, so massive kudos to Naughty Dog for doing this for the accessibility community. And now, on to the moment you've all been waiting for. The accessibility scores are as follows. Visibility, I gave a sky-high 11. This game has a vast range of accessibility options right out of the gate. So, where to begin? This game has a handful of colorblind options, but it doesn't stop there. You can also change the color of the HUD, or heads-up display, change the HUD background, and scale. There are also options for high contrast display, screen magnification, as well as a translator for text-to-speech for non-English speaking gamers. Text-to-speech is also an accessibility feature. There is also a ledge guard option where there are audio cues and vibration feedback through the controller to prevent you from falling off ledges that could kill you in the game. The last base I'm going to cover in this area is the wide range of audio cues that let you know if there's items, enemies, or infected nearby. This all means gamers with visual impairments should be able to play this game without any difficulty. Audibility was also a sky-high 11. Not only are there the standard subtitles for this game, you can also see who's speaking with the on-screen subtitles, and you can enable an option to allow you to see where the speech is coming from with the arrows pointing to where the speaking character is on screen. There's also the option to allow to have a traversal arrow on screen by pressing the mapped button you have in your controls, which I'll cover next, to see where you need to go to progress in the story. Therefore, players with hearing impairments should be able to play this with ease. Mobility I also gave a sky-high 11. To say you're able to fully customize your controls would be a massive understatement. You can also change the controller orientation and the control scheme. You can change the scheme to the point where you can just use your left hand or your right hand. And you can also name your custom control scheme. I shall name mine AGN. This means gamers with mobility issues can play this game to the best of their ability. And last, but by certainly no means least, we have the gameplay. Go on, I'll give you 30 seconds to work out how much I gave this section. Time's up. Yep, for those that guessed right, it was of course another Sky High 11. This is probably the best section to cover. So here we go. When it comes to the gameplay, there's a few tweaks from the previous entry in the franchise. On top of playing as Ellie, you can also play as Joel and Abby throughout various points in the game. There are also some slight tweaks in the gameplay between Abby and Ellie. There's guitar mini-games throughout Ellie's portion of the story, while on Abby's side, she is able to craft shivs, while Ellie isn't able to. Ellie doesn't need to worry about that, as she has her trusty switchblade knife for stealth kills, whereas Abby can choke enemies out, as well as break their necks. Pleasant! You can also craft various types of ammo throughout the game as well, from flammable shotgun shells to arrows for Abby's crossbow and Ellie's bow. You can even craft silencers for your pistol. As far as how accessible the gameplay is concerned, you can have a lock-on aim for both your firearms and arrow-based weaponry, and have lock-on assist enabled, which allows you to press the aim button based on where you've mapped it on your controller and just fire away at anyone who's stopping you from progressing. There's also the return of fan favourite grounded mode, where it's more challenging, enemies are stronger, you take more damage, and there's fewer resources throughout. The enhanced listen mode allows you to see where enemies are and where items are as well. Oh, and you can enable an option to allow you to pick up items automatically. The last big thing Naughty Dog added is a permadeath option with 3 ways of tackling it, if you want the trophies, of course. Permadeath for the whole game, meaning if you die, you go straight back to the beginning of the game. Permadeath per act, meaning if you die, you go back to the start of the act you're on. The easiest of the 3 permadeath options is per chapter, meaning if you go for permadeath per chapter and you die, you only need to go back to the start of the chapter. And with no difficulty-based trophies you need to obtain, apart from grounded mode and permadeath, why not tackle both at the same time? Good luck! You're gonna need it. You can easily get the platinum in the 2 playthroughs which are required for the weapon upgrade and supplement trophies. I mentioned in the intro that this is the most accessible game I've ever played, and this review is solid proof as to why. This game won the first ever Innovation in Accessibility Award at the 2020 Game Awards, on top of the other 6 it won, one of which being the coveted Game of the Year. And it's not hard to see why. This is a generation-defining game for the 8th generation of gaming, and a great swan song for the PS4 lifecycle. If you haven't yet, I highly recommend getting this, as well as the first game which has been remastered for PS4. And the overall score is 110%. Ground all flights! Repeat, ground all flights! We have made history with our first ever 110% score on the blog. See you in the next review. This is Kenzie N7 Retro, the newly appointed assistant editor of the Accessible Gaming Network, signing off. Thank you, and good night. You primarily control Ellie as you can smeg. I am aware that some of our... So massive kudos to Naughty Dog for doing this for the accessible... Smeg! And the occasional bloater along with a new group of enemies called Seraphites. Wrong wording, Kenzie. Audibility was also a Sky High 11. There are no Smeg. Audibility was also a Sky High 11. Not only are there the studded... flippin' hamburgers, I can't speak today! where you can just use... Smeg. Mistyped something. And last, but by certainly no means least, we are on to the gameplay. Gameplay? Gameplay! It's a P, not a B! There's guitar mini games that are Ellie's portion of the story. Story! Blast! And have lock-on aim in it. I've not typed that right, have I?